Welcome to a place where hearts unwind, infinite threads that gently bind, love and compassion in every line. Together we rise through space and time.
Welcome back to Infinite Threads. I'm your host, Bob. When people talk about love, especially unconditional love, the conversation almost always turns toward what it costs, what it asks of us, what we risk when we stop guarding ourselves so tightly. And that makes sense. Loving openly does require something from us. It asks us to stay present when it would be easier to shut down. It asks us to care without guarantees. It asks us to see others fully, even when doing so complicates things. But what we don't talk about nearly enough is what comes back. Not in a transactional way, not as a reward, just quietly, over time, as a result of living differently. Because when you stop putting borders around your love, when you stop deciding who deserves it and who doesn't, life begins to respond in ways that are subtle but unmistakable. One of the first things that returns is a sense of peace that's hard to explain until you've felt it. It isn't the kind of peace that depends on everything going well. It's the kind that comes from knowing you acted from a place that didn't betray who you are. You don't replay conversations as much. You don't carry the same internal arguments around. You don't wonder days later whether you should have been harsher or colder or more defended. Even when something doesn't land the way you hoped, there's still a steadiness underneath it. A quiet awareness that says, I showed up honestly. I didn't close my heart to get through this. That does something to a person. It settles the nervous system. It creates room inside. Clarity is another thing that tends to find its way back to you. When fear leads, well, everything feels urgent. Every decision feels loaded. Every interaction feels like it needs to be managed or controlled. But when love leads, the noise drops just enough for you to hear yourself think again. You start noticing when something truly matters and when it doesn't. You get better at sensing when compassion means staying close and when it means stepping back. You don't have to analyze everything or every feeling to death. You just know. Loving without borders doesn't make you naive. It makes you attentive. And attentiveness has a way of sharpening perception instead of dulling it. There's also a return of joy, though it often shows up in quieter forms than people expect. Not excitement, not constant happiness, just a gentle sense of aliveness. Moments land differently, small things register more fully, a look exchanged with a stranger, a brief conversation that feels human, the way light hits a wall in the late afternoon. No, none of it is dramatic, but none of it feels empty either. When your heart isn't clenched, joy doesn't have to fight its way in. It doesn't need permission. It just arrives unannounced and stays for a moment before moving on. And that's enough. Something else begins to return too, though people don't always name it right away, and that's resilience. Not the kind that pushes through at all costs, the kind that allows you to bend without breaking. When love flows more freely, emotions don't get stuck in the same way. Sadness moves through instead of settling in. Anger passes without hardening into bitterness. Even grief, when it comes, feels held rather than overwhelming. You recover more easily not because you care less, but because you resist less. That's one of the quiet gifts of loving without borders. You stop fighting your own humanity. Over time, meaning starts to return as well. Not as a grand revelation, just as a felt sense that what you're doing matters even when no one is applauding, even when nothing visibly changes right away. Acts of kindness stop feeling pointless. Presence stops feeling wasted. You no longer measure the value of a moment by what it produces. You feel connected to something larger than outcomes. And that connection, guys, that carries its own kind of purpose. But the deepest gift, the one that tends to arrive last, is a return to yourself. Not the guarded version and not the braced for impact version, and not the one shaped entirely by disappointment or fear. The quieter one underneath. The part of you that wanted to care deeply before the world taught caution. The part that knew connection mattered before it learned how easily it could be lost. The part that didn't need a reason to love. When you love without borders, you don't become someone new. You remember who you were before you had to protect yourself so much. And that remembering, that feels like coming home. Loving this way doesn't make life easy, but it makes it honest. And honesty has a way of giving back more than we expect. Peace returns. Clarity returns. Joy returns. Resilience returns. And meaning returns. Not all at once. Not on demand. Just in time. Because love, when it's real, always finds its way back to the one who offered it. And that's not a promise. It's something you discover by living it. I love you guys very, very, very much. And you know what I need you to do, right? Go out and pass that on. Later, Gators. Bye-bye.